Welcome to Vlog Thursday 409, and Tom's in a hotel room again because I'm traveling at IT Nation here. I'll run into so many people. Super cool seeing everyone. And I have a lot of talks to do. We thought we were going to be able to find time later, but later isn't going to work out. So I'm doing it now. This is why it didn't have a ton of planning. I probably know, and I see Matt on the background can just nod his head if this is true. It looks like my connection is not fantastic. This is the problem when I go to, yeah, this is the problem when I go to events. The connection is certainly not fantastic. So that's life. I'll do what I can here. Don't have a whole lot of other updates other than I'll be at MISecCon. That's coming up here in November. That is I think the last event that I'm going to in 2024, and then I'll start talking about my 2025 schedule. But it's always cool because I say these as many people say, "Hey, Tom, I heard you're going to be here." So I'm coming in saying hi, which I think is awesome. So there's just, it's really cool meeting all the people in person. Now, one of the things I've been working on and what my talk is about, so I could preview it with everyone here. I've actually got 3 talks. One talk I've already done. So if you go to my Business Technicalities channel, you will find it. It's me and Jason talking about how to do mergers, that or how we did our merger, and some advice about doing mergers if you ever want to merge companies. That talk's already been done on YouTube. So if you're into the business side of things, and I'm doing that talk here in front of an audience. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is this talk. And this talk, but I wanted to get the video done before, but I did not have time. But what I am doing is open source log management with Greylog, Security Onion, and Wazoo. And it's completely not sponsored. So it's going to be just a talk where I put together like how to use open source SIM. I'm doing this talk here live. Recording a live version of me doing a public talk doesn't look as good on YouTube. So I will do this talk separately as a dedicated YouTube video. And I'll, of course, have all the slides available for people, but I dive into and point at a lot of other videos I've already done to tell you how to build an entire open source security monitoring stack, which does include, I will include in my YouTube one, but not this one, some pieces about Linux, because I'm at an IT conference that primarily focuses on Windows machines. All of my talk is more slanted towards how to do this and how to set up the Windows machines. It's not that many slides that are dedicated to it, but it's actually in some ways easier to do on Linux because you can just use syslog and there's less steps. You can just point syslog at these servers. But I did dive into things like Greylog and Security Onion, talking about how they work, how you can set things up. Like I said, I'll make this into, I probably won't do slides. I'll actually just kind of walk through the threat hunting in each of these and show how they work. But it's going to be a fun talk here. And the feedback I get from those talks are going to be, how I hopefully make the YouTube video that much better. So sometimes it's like I do it on YouTube and get some feedback, but when I do it in front of a live audience, people will come up and tell me what they liked, what they didn't like, or they'll have questions about gaps in there. So yeah. I'm not going to do as much in depth on Wazoo, and I'm also specifically not doing it sponsored. That way, it may be sponsored by somebody else, but it won't be sponsored by Wazoo. That way, there's no bias. Wazoo does want to pay me money to sponsor it, and I turned it down because it feels weird to me. And I've just, me and Matt have worked hard on this. We are going to do, for example, like an Nmap video sponsored by Blumera. That one's coming. It's about Blue Team managing your network with Nmap and how to build inventories and reports. Cool video for people that want to inventory their stuff using some open source tools. Will be sponsored by Blumera. So it's like one of those things where there's just no way to get around it. Like if someone pays me to do a video about their product, it's no longer a review at all. There's an implied bias that there's no way to get away from. And I don't want implied biases on things. So I like it when people go, hey, Tom likes this tool because Tom likes this tool, or I don't like the tool. Matter of fact, there are between Security Onion and Wazoo, so I set both of them up and got them stood up in my office. So this is real data that I pulled in, PCAPs and everything else that I put together for all of this. There are some issues, and I feel that some of the other people that have done Wazoo videos that were sponsored by Wazoo, they didn't do the best job on covering some of the issues of how Wazoo works. I think I have one in here about, like, this one here is a slide. Now, this is something I will talk about. Is the API limits are impractical to make this as usable. So there is a public API that you can do the things Wazoo does, but if you don't start paying money, essentially, it's not an effective platform at a lot of things. So, but I walked through how to install, I can tell you how to install, how it sets up. That part was pretty easy. I thought there's some of their mappings were cool. So there's definitely a huge number of things I liked with Wazoo, and there's a huge number of things I like with Security Union, but there are also things that make it, like, it just some challenges. It's not the end all be all solution for security, but it's a fun solution. Like, it's nothing wrong with running it. Matter of fact, it's just making sure you're honest with yourself, and I'm honest with the audience. Like, could you run all this? Absolutely. Is it a lot of work? Oh yeah. It's I want a realistic approach to what it takes to make something like this happen. That's what the goal of the video is, and goal of my talk is, hey, this is what it takes. Like, you can use these tools. Here's the pitfalls you're going to run into using these tools. Here's the way you can overcome it. So yes, you can, but it's not without challenges. You can build your own car. You can compile your own Linux kernel. And everyone who does it for a living thinks those things are easy. Those of us that are going, well, I'd like to build my car. Why would I buy a car that's already built? And well, there's reasons. So is it possible to deploy Greylog on TrueNAS scale 2410? I don't know. I'm going to find out, though, because I want to play with the way the dockage works. If dockage works on there, cool. The thing I don't know is, would it survive updates? That's my big challenge with the way they do it, is how good would it survive an update? And that's where I never want people to build something that's too fragile. And I don't build things like this myself. If I build something that's fragile, what you run into is the challenge of, oh my God, it breaks every time I update it. So now I'm going to just keep never updating it because I don't ever want it to break. So I'm always careful about that. I have a TrueNAS BackBlaze question. I have 8 terabyte of my NAS. I'm backing up to BackBlaze with the file name encryption enabled. I've been organizing files and saw my BB storage balloon. Yeah, see, if you encrypt before you send, great, because it's encrypted. Bad, because it's not going to understand. So if you rename a file, Backblaze, if you're encrypting before send, it's like, oh, that's a completely new file. So yes, you're going to get duplicates if that's the solution there. Is traditional SAN storage, iSCSI with thick LVM, reliable in XCPG, or is HyperConverged mainly advised? For example, Proxmox does not support snapshot with iSCSI. You can run iSCSI perfectly fine with XCPNG. I need to do a video about HyperConverged. I just did some consulting Monday with someone with a messed up HyperConverged system in Proxmox. And their problem is it works. It's like beautiful, except it works. And this is the problem most people in the home lab run into. It works until you want to do something production with it. And I don't mean running your Plex server. Home users can grab the HyperConverged Ceph cluster and go, hey, look, magic. All these things are running, and most of them are low-powered applications, so they work fine. What happened is the client stuck a database on there, and the database is production and has a ton of small transactional writes, and that destroys your HyperConverged. The reason, because with what the assumption people make is that HyperConverged solves the problems of storage. And what they don't realize is it creates a new one. And if you go to even the Proxmox recommendations for HyperConverged, they'll say if you have, and this is not public as in public IP, but the way Ceph works, they call it public-private network. Public network of Ceph is where the storage is presented to the hypervisor. Private network of Ceph is where the synchronization happens in the background. And I believe the recommendation, last I looked on their site, is if you have a 10 gig public side, what you're interacting with, you should have at least a 40 gig backend. It is both computationally and network bandwidth wise intense to do hyperconverged, because you figure every write you do, and especially in the world of Ceph does not have the concept of uncommitted writes. For example, when you go into ZFS and you turn sync off, you're actually telling it to lie to the system talking to it. So an NFS write is then committed according to the sync. If sync is off, it lies about the commit, going, oh no, we'll release it and let the requester know that this was committed, versus when you have sync on, it will not release until it's actually been committed. That's not an option in Ceph, which means when you say, hey, my erasure coding is this is the level of redundancy. When Ceph does a write, that write has to be on all systems before it's committed, which of course you can go, oh, that's easy, until there's 1,000 writes. And then you're pushing those writes over a network to synchronize with the other devices in real time. So your speed limit becomes, or more likely, is usually not streaming. It's like the small microtransactions. So I don't know. Maybe I should just do a video about HyperConverged so I don't have to keep explaining this like that. That's where the challenge comes in. It's why not everyone runs HyperConverged. Like, it's a great idea, but there's challenges with it. That's all. TrueNAS has some solution like Synology Active Backup for Business, backup for the entire host installing agent. Nope. There's, I probably could do an updated videos. I think the last one was from a year ago, but not much has changed. That's the thing. Like, if you watch my Synology versus TrueNAS video, there's more features in TrueNAS, but none of them are anything what Synology offers for things like Active Backup. It's just the way it is. It sucks for people that were hoping for a solution to replace their Synology, but there's a reason Synology, they just have better software than TrueNAS when it comes to the applications. As a matter of fact, I have a video about the best applications for Synology, and that's the thing. Synology is not about the hardware. You always see the home lab people just carrying on. Tom, I can't believe you ever recommend Synology. They have like a 4-year-old processor. Throw this thing away. And anyone who uses it in business goes, you know how good the software is? And I'm like, yeah, that's why we sell so many of them. It's the processor is good enough, but the software is killer. Like, the software with no licensing fees, being able to do active backup, like, I can't tell you what else does that. That's where the challenge is. They don't have a competitor, not a real competitor. There's plenty of licensed, expensive software. It's not you can't do this with something like Veeam, but I can't tell you what the next thing is that works as well, as smooth as active backup for backing up Windows workstations, or in the case of a lot of people, backing up the Office 365 or G Suite. Like, the solution to sell, like, and this is an easy example. Someone goes, and we sold this to someone. They had, I don't know, 200 mailboxes to back up. The quote for doing it in any other way besides Synology is substantially more expensive. Even buying the Synology, the ROI, I think, is less than a year because of the licensing fees. Like, here's your recurring licensing fee to use insert name of product that backs it up. And you're like, that's a lot. I'm like, yeah, here's what it costs to buy Synology. And that's a one-time fee. Let's say the Synology lasts for the next 5 years, or maybe it's some people, the bigger companies, they buy 2 Synologies just to back up all their cloud stuff, and it just works. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for the Synology software. Yeah, this is my pitch when we sell storage. People say, I really want a high availability storage solution. And I have to say, what's your budget? Not that I'm going to try to sell you what your budget is, but the price difference, Synology's HA system doesn't work as good as the one in TrueNAS, but I think it works good enough for most scenarios. That being said, the price difference is like a $30,000 box for the Synology that will have redundancy. And we just sold, I think it was like almost $80,000 for the TrueNAS version. So you're talking almost 2.5 times. And it's just, it, and what's wrong with it really is nothing, except the Synology does not fail over as fast. It's just, they don't do it in the same way, and getting high performance out of Synology. Synology is not as high performance as ZFS and TrueNAS. So yeah, you're missing the old ad read in your videos. Which one? I've had variations over the years. So I guess I don't know which one you're referring to. Is it just me saying, hire us? Please hire me to do this. That's how the old one sounded to me, at least. I don't know. I don't know. I liked it being that I just have an ad drop in because then I don't think about what I have to say. So I screw up my own ad read sometimes. I screw up a lot of things. So it's kind of, hey, if you want to hire us, blah, blah, blah. I said it a lot, so I wasn't screwing it up too much, but it becomes less I have to say so I can get to the content that you came here for. There's a reason that's at the end. So, I got to pay the bills, but you're not here to watch me say, hey, hire me. You're here to, yeah, it's, I don't know. It's I don't know which is the better way. I don't mind making it personal like that, but I did do the other ad read, so it's still my voice. It's just more concise because I took the time to do it in a concise way. But I have another talk I'm doing here in 20 minutes. That's where my talk track begins, and then I have two more after that. So I'm going to jump off of here. Thank you all for joining, and I got to get downstairs and get mic'd up and set up. I'll be up on stage. I don't know if uh, I'm doing a talk on AI with it's a panel. I don't know if it will be streamed later, but if you follow me on LinkedIn or any of my socials, it'll get posted there if it is. I was unclear, and so is the other people, whether or not it's going to be a live stream talk. So hopefully that hopefully that makes sense and I can get it all done. So I'm just reading up the last comments here. Yeah, it comes. You're right. It's overkill for some of those. Like I said, I ask people their budget. I mean, I want the fancy stuff, is what everyone starts out with. But I'm like, no problem. I'll sell you whatever you want. But can you afford the fanciness? It's we all like the really fast sports car, but not that doesn't always fit the bill. All right. Thanks everyone for joining, and take care.